Time. It's finite, and how you choose to spend it can make the difference between enjoying your time here and just cruising through it, focusing only on the negative aspects of the world as we know it. The digital boom in the 80s and 90s really changed everything that we know about interacting with our world and each other. I'm old enough now to remember a life pre-internet, and even pre-mainstream mobile phone usage, where you had to call your buddy on a landline to meet up, cycle over to their house, and get a call from your mum to theirs asking you to come home for dinner later in the evening. There's something about this time that means a lot to people around my age. Perhaps because we remember a time before social media, and before it became common to see people attached to a screen in the palm of their hand, the original Game Boy aside. Looking back at photos from this time, there's this overwhelming sense of nostalgia associated with these memories. From a time where things seemed more simple, when we ironically felt more connected with one another. This here is my buddy James and I, first learning to surf when we were just kids in South Wales. And here are some of my photos from my college trip to Greece, on a classics archaeological trip. There are some great memories stored in these photos of everyone involved, and some not so happy that I was taking hundreds of pictures on my camera. Even playing video games together. It's mad to think now, but you had to sit next to someone if you wanted to play multiplayer games with them. Now, of course, this can all be done online, but there was something to be said about looking your opponent in the eye as you launched that blue shell at them. In the modern world, we're constantly bombarded with things seeking to grab our attention, from notifications on the phone to the latest show on Netflix, or scrolling endlessly on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Think about your day. How many people, when they first wake up in the morning, grab their phone and instantly engage with social media? How many people take their phones with them to the toilet just to scroll through while relieving themselves? I don't know, there's no classy way of putting that, is there really? How many people look for convenience over quality when it comes to cooking a microwave meal instead of cooking something from fresh themselves? These aren't necessarily bad things. Our time is finite. And as we grow older, the number of responsibilities that we have only increase. From paying the bills to paying the mortgage, to spending time with your family, friends, kids. That convenience is really attractive. In the long term, however, this convenience prevents you from being able to learn new skills and finding new passions in your day-to-day activities. I was definitely one of those people, looking for distractions rather than applying myself to the task at hand. Why learn to cook when I can have a takeout or make a microwave meal or something? Why take the time to learn more about and appreciate something like coffee when you've got so many options available to you? From instant coffee to Starbucks, Costa Coffee, any of those sort of solutions as well. I was starting to find very little fulfillment in my day-to-day and decided that I need to take a step back. So the question is, if you're in a similar situation, where do we go from here? While this pre-digital era has been left to the corridors of nostalgia, it's time to think about how we can reconnect with ourselves outside of the digital world, and to start finding meaning and purpose in the small mundane things that we just do day to day, instead of moving from distraction to distraction. The first step in this really is to put down your mobile phone, to make sure that when you're doing a task, whether that's cleaning, whether that's making coffee, whether that's anything really, that the mobile phone is away. Turn it off, put it in another drawer, just keep it out of sight, out of mind. Because frankly, there exists a plethora of different distractions and notifications and things to take your attention away from things that you might potentially be enjoying. It's time to take back some control and start spending our time a lot more intentionally. So here are just a few ideas of things that you can do that you can really apply yourself to and start maybe finding some hobbies that you enjoy. Firstly, conversations. Instead of thinking about what your next answer is going to be, take the time to actually listen to the person. Listen to what they have to say. Take the time to consider it, and then answer back if relevant. Listening skills are more important than ever in a time where our attention span is so short. Photography. Personally, this is one that I'm really getting into, and the key concept here is thinking of less is more. With DSLR cameras these days, and even our mobile phones, you can take hundreds of shots in mere seconds. So if you wanted to apply yourself to photography a bit more intentionally, maybe set yourself a limit. If you're going out on a photo walk, for example, say to yourself, I'm only taking 30 photographs. That's in line with a more traditional film approach, and that's something that's actually really fulfilling because it puts that limitation on you. Or if you're interested in picking up film photography, that's another fantastic approach because you're not going to know what you've taken until you've developed that film. Listening to music. When I was younger, we would listen to an album all the way through before deciding which tracks we enjoy and which ones we would skip. It was more sort of intentional, really. You would have to actually get up and press a button to skip a track, or if you were listening to vinyl, then you'd literally have to pick the needle up and move it across. It was at a time where the album was really important, and entire concepts were... Excuse me? Are you cleaning yourself? Take the time to engage with the music instead. Don't just have it on in the background. Take the time to sit there, listen to the music, appreciate the album as a whole. Coffee and food. Take the time to really apply yourself to these pursuits. If you're cooking, maybe cook something from scratch, properly, not using the pre-made jar sauces or anything like that. Use fresh ingredients. Maybe visit a local grocery and see if you can pick up some really fresh ingredients and try something new. Think about all of the properties of the food, the flavour, the texture, the scent, and make sure to put time in the presentation as well. The overall takeaway here is to just encourage you to start engaging meaningfully with your hobbies. Start finding things that you really enjoy and start applying yourself to them. This video is just the beginning of a series that I'd like to start making about intentionality. I think it's really important more than ever to actually limit yourself from distractions and really apply yourself to things that you have an interest in. It's about finding purpose within the mundane, and through that purpose you find a real passion for the human experience. Call me a hipster if you want, but honestly, in my experience, I found so much more fulfillment and passion and direction in life once I actually start applying myself meaningfully to things that I find an interest in. But that's everything from me. Let me know what you think in the comments. Are there any hobbies that you've been particularly engaged in recently? Leave me a like if you enjoyed this video, and if you'd like to see more from me, hit that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it and it'll help the channel grow. But until next time, ta-ra. Mew. Stop. This is not the cleaning show. This is Rhys recording a video on intentionality. Hey?